Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru invited the director of IIT Delhi then because he wanted his grandson to be given admission, Rajiv Gandhi. And he was very embarrassed to ask him. So his daughter was in the room and he said, oh, now you can have tea with her and, it'll be very nice. And then she asked him that, what do you think about the possibility that Rajiv may join IIT Delhi? And he was a very intelligent man. He said, yes, madam, I can help hugely with Rajiv's, studying engineering. I have lots of friends in the UK and I'm sure they'd be willing to help. And I'll put Rajiv in touch with them and do it. But at the same time, I think he safeguarded certain norms that were sacred at IIT Delhi. And it's there in Rajat Gupta's biography. The other one that I know of personally took place at IIM Ahmedabad when Professor Matthai and my father were summoned by a very senior figure, political figure, and asked whether his daughter could sort of be given admission out of turn in IIM Ahmedabad. And he said, please let me know what I should do. And I think this is one of Professor Matthai's masterstroke. He said, yes, I will ensure that we provide you all the support that we can. And when my father and he came back, he told my father, please send him the application form. It's absolutely essential that he has the application form. So, but it takes courage. I think at some level, Professor Matthai sort of lived that throughout his life. That he had the courage to say, this is the line in the sand that we don't cross. And that's why I think this idea of meritocracy being a driver of excellence across these institutions is so important.
That's right.
When I left Gujarat Cooperative and joined ITC, I was saying I became a persona non grata because corporates were the last thing that IRMA wanted at that point of time.
Right.
And I said, okay, so be it. That's what I believe, that it won't work in the oil seed sector in cooperative. So a few years later, we had rolled out e-Chopal at ITC. And I wanted to recruit from IRMA, which is restricted to what is called designated organizations. The cooperatives are NGOs. And first response from Dr. Kurian was a shock, saying, what is this? So not only he said, now you want to recruit also. So anyway, so I had to accept. And actually a year later, I ran into Dr. Kurian in Delhi at a panel discussion like this. And I thought I'll make use of this opportunity to deal with two aspects that they held against e-Chopal and me, saying that, the core tenets of cooperative is that the enterprise must be farmer owned and the whole value chain should be controlled by the farmers. And the second is that you eliminate middlemen to directly connect the farmers and the consumer. So whereas e-Chopal was not owned by the farmers in form, but I argued that the only way e-Chopal can thrive is by being ultra responsive to the farmers' needs and deliver whatever benefits, only then they will stay on. And second, I said, e-Chopal recognizes the role that middlemen play by making up for the lack of key infrastructure, and eliminating them would only mean more expensive. We just need to re-engineer the value chain and so on. So after all those arguments in the panel, he just sent me a chit from the other end of the table saying that, see me after the panel, and we met for some time. And so he said, no, I think what you say makes sense. The mission is more important than the strategy. And he opened up recruitment for ITC at IRMA. And of course, soon after to other corporate sector as well.
Someone told me recently about Satish Dhawan, how he changed the Indian Institute of Science. Before Satish Dhawan, it was supposed to be a very laid-back place, and then it was also quite small. Satish Dhawan recruited a large number of people, and he used to go out, meet somebody who he wanted to bring and offer them jobs on the spot. I've heard that he has recruited 71 people in just 1 year. One small story. Professor Balakrishnan, who Balki, everybody calls him Balki, who later became Associate Director of Indian Institute of Science. He finished his PhD and he was going abroad on a postdoctoral fellowship. So Satish Dhawan heard that he's going out. He came and met him and said he should not go abroad. When you go abroad, you'll be a screwdriver and someone else will turn the screw. You have to stay here, you can become a faculty. So then Balki said that, look, I need some time. How much time do I have? So Satish Dhawan said, how about 20 seconds? Then he didn't go abroad, he joined as faculty. And this is how, you recruited a large number of people. And that is probably one reason why Indian Institute of Science grew.
I just wanted to add a few things.
Yeah, sure.
During my tenure at IIT Bombay, and of course, Professor Kelkar at IIT Kanpur, we did a lot of work to attract bright young faculty members, and then you had to change the system of making them an offer while you are on the run. So, in my several visits to the States, there's one anecdote. This one very bright young fellow, he came, we interviewed him, and I had my deans and the core committee there, and he said, "Well, when can I?" The reverse of what Balki's story. He says, "When can I know that I have an offer?" I said, "Can you wait till 6 p.m.?" This was about 5 p.m. And 6 p.m. in California and the Bay Area, he had the offer letter. We had the offer letters ready and so on. I just fill out his name, sign and give it to him. So it's this kind of thing which Kelkar also did. And you have to do that to attract faculty.
IIT Madras, I also got a feel of the exceptional qualities of the faculty, and that I think is the bedrock of these institutions. So I remember a course where all of us worked doubly hard, and we did more than what was there as a quote unquote a syllabus, and the faculty member was so impressed with the class that he decided that he's just going to give S and A's, so which are the top two grades. And typically in these institutions there is a tendency to grade on a normal curve, right? So he fought his way through the department, and he fought his way through the dean and said that, hey, this class, these guys are getting this, otherwise we'll hold the grades till you guys agree that it needs to be done. So I still remember that it took us some time to get the grades for that particular subject, but the faculty had his way, and I was just awestruck, because I thought that, hey, come on, this is clearly going against the set rules, and there are these big folks sitting in large rooms, the department head, the dean and the director, and to see how a young faculty could kind of fight his way through was a revelation for me.
One story I've heard from Ahmedabad was Ravi Matthai's insistence on faculty taking ownership of decisions, and people in the committees and so on who were basically faculty members. He used to kind of push back issues. For example, if a committee couldn't decide on something and they sort of pushed it up to the director and said, we are not able to decide, why don't you take a call? Ravi Matthai used to be very firm about pushing it back to the committee and saying, no, the way the whole place is structured, you guys have responsibility for this. You have to, take a call, and it's not for me to take a decision on this. So this, I think, embedded this kind of decentralized leadership in a place like IIM Ahmedabad. And I saw something very similar in IIT Kanpur as a student. One reason for, of course, both of these might have also been that both of them had a strong American influence. IIT Kanpur, of course, had support from a consortium of US universities, IIM Ahmedabad from Harvard Business School. But I think full credit to the Indian leadership of these institutes that they brought these principles into the institutes and made them work.
I was a student there, I was a PGP there. And of course, I went back and taught, because by that time things had slowed down. And I remember being hired as an investment banker, being sent to New York to get trained in investment banking. And then I come back and I see, oh my goodness, IIM Bangalore is teaching risk and IIM Ahmedabad isn't. So just like all of us had been taught, the mission is more important than the person. Excellence is what you do. You step up and you do what you can because an act of leadership is embedded deeply into you. I went back to the profs. And I went back to the profs and I said, listen, everybody in the world has moved on. You're the only ones who don't teach derivatives and don't teach portfolios and don't teach risk. I'm going to design the course for you and I'm going to deliver the first one for you. And the prof said, okay, here's a schedule. Here are flight tickets, but only local ones. I can't, this is how much I can afford, which was like pennies. You really don't get paid much to teach over there. But you come, you design it, and then we'll carry it on from there. He didn't need to consult anybody. You know, the autonomy towards excellence is amazing. And that was the first time risk and derivatives were taught at IIM Ahmedabad because it was the right thing to do. And I think that is what Ravi Matthai started off so many years ago, saying that it is all about the learning, it's about excellence, it's about the students, the rest will follow. I remember Sanjay said something very striking. He said the lights never went out on campus.
Wow.
All day and all night, there'd be somebody working. The students would be shouting at each other across dorms because everybody knew everybody was awake and working. But the professors, there would always be some lights on in the wings because the professors would be working harder and harder to do better and better the next day for their students.
TIFR wanted to have a new building, and they had identified a small piece of land within the naval base there, and Navy was not willing to give it away. Bhabha wanted to talk to Nehru, but he didn't want to directly tell him that he wanted land. So the story is that he took Nehru for a stroll by the sea next to where the TIFR is now, and said, this is a very nice place of land and we would like to build it. It will be very nice to build an institute. And that got Nehru, that got his interest, and then he got the land. And then the story is also that when Nehru came to lay the foundation stone, he said that it was a very difficult decision for him because the defense minister was after him. The defense minister will not let go of that land because he wanted it himself, and the prime minister will have to convince him, and so on. And but actually, that time the defense minister was Nehru himself. So
Okay, that's a nice one.
So there was a very distinguished professor, outstanding classroom teacher, but one of the sort of things that Professor Ravi Matthai believed in, and he shared it with all his colleagues and said, this is how we're going to achieve excellence as a business management institution, is we must also attempt to translate what we teach in the classroom into a consulting practice, as well as commit ourselves to research. And that research is to be communicated through papers, through books, through addressing various conferences, and this must be worldwide. And in fact, IIM had a collaboration with Harvard at an academic level for many, many years, which extended till the early 70s. And this professor in question did not sort of entirely buy into that thing that he should spend time doing research. And he certainly didn't believe in consulting. And his area of focus was actually economics. So he was not even very significantly involved in, let's say, being on government committees, policy making, and so on. And when it came time for him to be appointed or be elevated to the next level, I think a bunch of people, 2-3 people in the appointments committee, despite his seniority, and it was very, very difficult because he was one of the people who joined the institute very early, took the stand that unless he sort of believes that these things are important and he focuses himself on achieving certain standards here, that he's not going to be elevated to the next level. And I think that's guts. Institution building also requires a lot of courage and a determination that certain basic principles are inviolable. Because the minute people can game the system and say, oh, I can get away with not doing this, that's when the rot sets in. And that's what Professor Matthai and a bunch of his colleagues really stood for. That you got to have a set of liberal values, a clear set of beliefs, well articulated, understood by all, a sense of shared purpose, and then the senior people have the courage and determination to make sure that you stay on track.
So IIT Kanpur got its first computer thanks to American aid, and the folks at the electrical engineering department were so what shall I say, forward-looking that they allowed a couple of young faculty at that point in time, Professor Mahabala and Professor Rajaraman, to just dive full-time into computers. And at some point in time, there were some murmurs that are they really doing any work in electrical engineering? They're just playing around with this new toy called computers. But lo and behold, computers became big, and in the 70s, when Professor Rajaraman decided to start an undergrad program in IIT Kanpur in computer science, he had all the freedom to go and ask other departments to loan him a couple of seats, so that he could have 20 seats in the computer science program in IIT Kanpur. And that's so. He said that. The Senate was said that okay, if you could manage to put together a few seats from all the other departments, you're good to go. So that was the first undergrad program in computer science in India. So I think we need to also treasure the faculty and the kind of people we had as faculty, leave alone the leadership, and the kind of belief that they had and the kind of mindset they had. I think that's truly awesome.
So one thing that really impressed me when I was a student at IIT Kanpur was the kind of autonomy which was given to students. So the way the entire students' gymkhana was structured, we even had a students' senate, and the students' senate consisted of elected representatives. The students' gymkhana president was subject to questioning by the senate. There was a kind of mini parliament almost happening within the institute. And it wasn't just restricted at that level. The student voice was very sought after by the institute as well. So I can clearly remember there was one summer I was the acting president of the student gymkhana because I was the cultural secretary. The president had gone on summer internship. So I was the acting president, and there were some really weighty matters which were being discussed in the academic senate. And the students' gymkhana president was a special invitee to the academic senate where only the profs used to discuss things. And I remember, I went and participated on behalf of the student body, and I actually got time to speak. And I remember many of the professors who were listening to me very carefully. Afterwards, they came and gave me some feedback on what I had said. So this whole involvement of students in the governance of the institute in almost every committee was something that really impressed me. And today, you don't really see that level of participation in governance in most institutions. And I understand a lot of this was due to Kelkar and Mutanna, who was the deputy director when Kelkar was the director.